Beyond the Spreadsheet is a new podcast brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Namibia. It aims to move beyond the spreadsheet and delve into the minds of Namibia's most prolific chartered accountants, offering a glimpse into the finance and the accounting professions from their insights to their triumphs. Our guest today is the Executive of Financial Reporting and Budgeting for the City of Windhoek. Before joining the City of Windhoek, he educated the next generation of accountants. He was a lecturer for group financial reporting at the Namibian University of Science and Technology back in 2017, and was previously a lecturer for lecturing financial accounting, costing and management accounting for almost 7 years at the Polytechnic of Namibia, now known as NUST. Please help me welcome our guest for today, Samuel Mutonga. How are you doing, Samuel?
I'm doing well.
It's so good to have you here. I see you've settled into your chair now. We're ready to have a nice conversation about who you are, what's happening in the public and private sectors, and what really is this thing we call chartered accountants. Are you ready for us today?
Yes. Thank you.
There we go. Now, Samuel, just to start us off, for any of our listeners that are joining us today for today's episode who are wondering, now who is this uncle with the nice red tie? How would you describe who you are and how you got into accounting?
Yes, my name is, as already introduced, I'm Samuel Mutonga, of years old. I actually qualify as, in my village, I'll qualify as a headman.
Wow.
I'm not a headman because I have older brothers. So that tells you how old I am. That means I can become a headman.
That's right.
Yes, I joined the accounting field by, I would say, by accident, but not accident. It was God directing the footsteps. Nice. Yes, so what happened is that when we did my grade 10, I wanted actually to do science. Unfortunately, I could not be admitted at the school that had science because my points were not that
That's science.
That's science, exactly. Yes, and then I actually accepted to go for social sciences, but unfortunately I could not get hostel. Then my mom said, no, Samuel, if there's no hostel, you are leaving that school. We find another school. So I ended up at a school where they were having accounting, and by grace of God, I actually got admitted in a class that I didn't qualify to be admitted. Just imagine.
Divine intervention. That's
Divine intervention. Actually, the HOD even came and told me who actually placed you here. And then I told him and said, yeah, one of the teacher placed me here. And then he said, no, you're not supposed to be here. I'm coming. Just wait for me. He went and never came back.
He's still looking.
Yes. So, and then what happened that the same actual teacher who wanted to remove me, in grade 12, he selected me as among the 10 students that he needed to prepare actually for exam that were
the top. Wow.
Yeah. Actually, this time I need to remind him one day when I meet him.
Yes.
Say, remember that conversation if he still remembers. And then during that time, at the same time, I did not do career guidance because, coming from the rural area, I come from deep in Zambezi at the bank of the river, about maybe 100 kilometers from the main town. So career guidance was not, it's not a thing that was known. So I was fortunate for one of my cousin's cousin visited us and had idea of accounting. So he heard about me doing accounting. Then he started talking about accounting. So I was just there like, I'm just going with the flow because I was in accounting class. Yes, and then I was admitted when I passed grade 12, I was admitted at Polytechnic, straight into accounting. That's how my journey for accounting actually started.
Beautiful.
Yes.
I think that's like one of the most interesting origin stories I've heard in a long time, because it's like, I had plans for being this, and this. None of them worked. All of them were blocked. And then the real ones showed up, and it was accounting. Exactly. And the fact that it's from the cousins, from a teacher no, that's beautiful. That's quite the journey to get to where we are today.
Exactly. No, it is quite a journey.
And I also wanted to jump into because like I think a lot of times when we talk about accounting, because we have like an understanding now that okay, Mr. Samuel is an accountant. Hy werk met die nommers. But when you really sit down and you ask people, now what exactly is this thing called accounting? We've got chartered accountants, we've got different vibes. I mean, when you went into it initially as well, what was your understanding around what accounting was, and what is your understanding of it now?
Yeah, it's one of the things when I taught students, I said no, accounting originated actually probably in the Bible. So from people just recording transactions. So accounting is normally limited to people understanding that it's just a matter of counting the money and then paying. You receive the money, you actually pay. But in actual fact, accounting is more than that because decisions are made from what accountants have compiled. Actually, in some cases, is what actually the accountant have advised and after analyzing the data. So you have the diverse sectors, or should I say field in accounting. Yeah. So normally we say accounting is kind of the overarching word that is being used. So you find finance there, you find the taxation.
Yes.
Then you hear about management accounting. Yeah, financial management. It's diverse. So you cannot even just have one simple definition of it.
Because it's multifaceted.
Which is more of my specialization, which is financial accounting, which is more financial reporting, which we now report on the historical. The fortunate part of my job is that I do historical reporting, but at the same time do management, which is present and looking into the future. That's where about the planning, financial planning comes in. So you can see how diverse accounting is all about.
And there's all of these many steps that you need to encounter. You have to bring all of it together,
Yes. Sometimes you find even you are fortunate in certain jobs that you actually do, you bring all these in one basket. You deal with the tax, financial reporting, financial management in one basket. But in some cases, depending on the size of the organization that you find, that you might just specialize, for example, in management accounting, purely management accounting. Yeah, so that's how the accounting field is all about.
Interesting. And now, when we look at that, of course, we now understand that accounting in its state is multifaceted. It's an umbrella term for many other things around financial literacy and so much. And you talking about also just how you've worked in these fields as both a lecturer and then now being in the public space and then in the private sector. But you, of course, started in the private sector and moved over to the public sector. Can you tell me a little bit about what that looks like? What is that, the private sector, public sector?
I think the culture shock when you move from private sector to public sector comes in. That's the first thing that we... First of all, sometimes when coming from private sector, branding is key. Yes. But when you come to a public sector, sometimes branding is not key. Yeah. The other culture shock that you encounter is time management. People are relaxed in the public sector. That means there's a lot of inefficiencies, which now maybe the public sector can accommodate that. But in the private sector, it cannot be accommodated when there is inefficiency that it crops in. So that is where the difference between when you come into the public sector. Now, when you are in there, you need now to try to inculcate
how does this now
work exactly. And then the other probably part that you find that yes, there is politics in private sector, which is mostly business politics. But when you come to a public sector, you might now encounter boss, business politics, and the actual politics.
The real politics.
The real one. Yes. So that is how I can be able to say the two sectors, how they differ. Yeah.
No, that's interesting. It's interesting. And I think sometimes we forget that when it comes to the private sector, it's very business orientated. It's of course, accounting is all to do with numbers, but the numbers there is more like for the revenue. Whereas I think in the public sector, it's more about human, like taking care of our people.
Exactly.
And really making sure that when we do take care of the data and when we do go through the numbers, we make sure that the public sector can thrive and continue to do what it needs to do, which is grow and keep being sustainable.
Yes. You have captured it well. Look, for example, I work for municipality. We render services. You find that some of the services that actually we're rendering, we are not to be able to recover the cost. So we need to be able to do the balancing act to know when to be able to say, look, in this particular case, we will not be able to cover the revenue that is generated from rendering the service is not sufficient to cover its cost. How do we now find ways to cross-subsidize that these services can continue? Because you cannot provide municipal service without those services.
Exactly.
Or you're obligated because there's no one else. As we said, human beings matters. Because that is the base. So it's that balancing act. But when you come to private sector, it's all about the bottom line, the profit.
We need to make
Even
sure.
though now these days we are looking at sustainability, because you can focus on the bottom line, that impedes your progress into the future, the financial sustainability of your organization. So you also, yes, in the private sector, they now look into how they can be able to make sure that they can consider the community they operate in, not only focus on the profit. But for us in public sector, it's a must.
Yes.
It's a must. We need to be able to consider, because at the end of the day, our shareholder in actual fact are the consumers of our services.
Yes.
So we make small marginal income, but that small marginal income need to be plowed back into the community as it is.
It's a consistent cycle.
It's a consistent cycle.
Yes. No, I love that. And while we're speaking about working for the City of Windhoek, I know you guys recently launched your app, and it's, of course, it's here to transform everything. It's, of course, changing the digital way of how priority and everything is accessed in your guys' side. But what I want to understand about the app is, how do you see this app helping chartered accountants? Like, how is this app that you guys have launched supposed to aid in the work that chartered accountants do?
Yeah. Now, see, for chartered accountants, for municipality, we're responsible for providing, for example, municipal statements to the residents. Now, with the app, it means that person does not need to drive to the municipality, but they can access that app.
Yes.
Go into the app, you can be able to see your municipal statement, effect the payments there, and then that information filters to the banks and then into our records. That means we can reduce some of the errors that can be experienced if now it's more human intervention in every process. Now in this case, we can see there's only one individual, which is the
specialist,
the customer who is actually working, who is working and providing that transaction, to filter it through the process. So it saves us time, but at the same time, it gives me information. I can use that app to download some records that help me to be able to identify even revenue leakages. Because in the app, you report incidents. There's incident of water leaks.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, we can be able to say, look, can we get the records? How much water leakages have been reported by the residents? Because some water leakage can go for months, because just imagine the process of calling and waiting on the line.
That whole...
No, people, most people...
Because you're already losing time in that.
Time in that. But now, someone just takes a picture, takes it in the location, and reports there's a water leak here. Automatically, that information is uploaded and it's reported to City. And even City can now respond on time. That saves
everyone time, and that saves everyone money, and that makes sure that it flows. Now,
so you see the innovation, how it now plays a part.
No, I think that's brilliant. Now, for me, let's pretend I am a chartered accountant. That's my profession, and I now have access to this data and this information. How do you predict it's supposed to improve or make my work easier?
No, it's with the technology that is coming, the innovation that is coming. I look for example myself. I've not exposed to some of the technology, but I look at the time when I'll be able to actually prepare reports while I'm just driving.
When it's all automated, I'm
just in the car driving, and then I'll be interacting with some device to be able to say, no, do this for me, do this. And when I reach at the office, some of my reports are ready. So that means that it saves me time. It's one of the things, because time is becoming precious.
Yes.
Especially for Africa, time, we know we waste a lot of time. But AI can help us actually to save on some of that time that we are losing, so that we can be able to compete with the world.
Yes. like be on the world stage, because
Exactly.
the technological revolution is upon us right
It's
now.
upon us. Yeah.
And I think what's so amazing is to also look at the fact that as someone that's also been a lecturer, you understand that knowledge is power, and the consistent growth that we go through, because we remain a work in progress. We constantly need to improve and make sure that our skill set that we have doesn't fall back, because
Exactly.
there's always more happening. And of course, as a lecturer in accounting for so many years and all the training that you've done, what was that experience like for you? Because obviously we're playing the big dog games now, where everyone's known in Groot League. So before all of that, when we were just molding the next minds of accountants, what was that period of your life like? What was that process like, giving back and helping the next generation of accountants?
Yeah, no, that was one of my beautiful time that I can remember, because I think, even before I got trained as a chartered accountant, I believed in making impactful activities upon the people. So I joined a firm that believes in impact that matters. Yeah. So giving knowledge, it means empowering people. People who will be able to continue to carry on even in your absence. So that was one of the most, I would say, the beautiful time that I enjoyed. And then now I meet some of my former students, actually now have qualified as chartered accountants. So me and them, we are equals.
We're colleagues now.
We are colleagues.
No, that's amazing. I think that would be the craziest thing for me to, like, one day walk in, like,
And
my lecturer, my sir, how are you?
with life, maybe one day I'll even report to my
Not
student.
one of your students being a senior.
Yeah, I mean, being a
being the
senior.
real head now.
Exactly. Yeah. I just need to be able to remember and say, she or he is my senior now. I just need to, irrespective of what I have taught the person. So we just need to acknowledge the position that I hold if I have to get into that position.
Now, of course, when we look at the young generation of accountants that are coming in and our current generation of accountants that are currently running, there's obviously a very big difference as to how we all approach what the job is.
Yes.
What would you say is the best way for us to, I wouldn't say merge, but meet everyone halfway to find like a healthy way to move forward? Because like you said, you make sure that you take a look at the past so that whatever we're doing in the present is planning for the future. So how do we blend the new generation and the old generation of accountants together to find that new something?
One thing that can go wrong is when the new accountants feel they know it all. They lack the experience. They might have read some article, they might have gotten to a certain exposure to certain technology. But I think the experience of the senior accountant, chartered accountant, is vital. So, but at the same time, the knowledge that the junior accountants, in terms of the technology, we need to be able to have that balancing act, because most of the time we'll need to work as a team. So you need to be able to say, you know all in terms of the technology. Yes, a senior accountant might not know, but make sure that whatever you do, make it easier for this senior actually to excel. In turn, they will also share the experience and expose you to things that you will not have exposed if you just limited yourself to the knowledge that you have.
Yes, that you, if you just stay in your box,
If you stay
if
in
you
your
don't
box,
open it up,
yeah.
yes.
No, I'm learning so much from my boss. Yeah, I'm learning a lot. She has tons of experience, but that is how it is, and that will never end, because experience has a value on it.
Yes.
That's why at the end of the day, in our sector, people with experience will be rewarded more, because they got exposed to many other scenarios that a junior person will not have exposed.
Now, when you look at all of that and you take a look at your career path and where you're standing now, what advice would you give to young accountants, or even just accountants that are currently practicing, to any of those chartered accountants? What's the advice you would give them to stay on track? Because we all know anything can happen in life and you can be deferred from what it is that you're focusing on. You can be so set on this career path and something can happen, just throw you off. What is that advice that you gave yourself to keep that consistency, to keep that level of balance in your life so that you could keep doing what you do?
I think keeping update with the trends that is happening in the sector, but also in other sectors. Because as you said, look, in actual fact, with the training of accountant, now we are not just be trained as accountant, we are actually trained as leaders.
Yes.
As leaders, that means we will head the organization in at one stage or another. You might find an opportunity where you need to lead an organization. So you need to be prepared. You're not just going to be stuck with the numbers and just understanding figures. You need to understand what are other sectors. But at the same time, to understand how the economy works, how the politics works, how the world intertwines. Because, as you said, things can happen that changes your life. Just imagine, think of instability happening in Namibia. You need to be ready to say any moment you might need to pack within an hour and leave this country and land in Canada. The next morning you're on the job. Because you are prepared.
Yes. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Exactly. So I think that is what we need to be able to for people to actually to know that they need to be able to be prepared. It's not only about the figures. Yes, you'll know about the figures, but knowing what is happening in other countries and around the world, how the conflict is affecting us, is very critical because it's not the peace that we enjoy in Namibia, of which our politicians are providing unto us. We cannot take it for granted. We are thankful that they are doing it now, but let's not take it for granted because that is one of the changes that can come. Or you might also work in an operation where probably they believe so much in technology, they might outsource your service and make it redundant. I was, I think 6 months or a year ago, I spoke to one junior accountant who indicated to me and said, look, I went into this organization. I set up a system in such a way that actually they didn't need me anymore.
Wow.
So I had to leave.
So he innovated it to the point where he was no longer needed.
He was no longer needed. You understand?
Yes.
Now he needed to be able to make sure that now what next?
Yes.
Because that can happen to you. Someone might look at what you have actually done and find a solution for you and say, you are an asset.
Yes.
We acknowledge what you have done. You are an asset. We'll find a way to keep you, to provide you other opportunity or to elevate. But others,
they're depreciating assets.
Yes, can just get rid of you and say, we don't no longer need you. Thank you very much. You need to find a way out.
And that's where that change comes in.
Then that is where the change.
Now,
if you have limited yourself to that particular sector and you do not know what is happening, or you do not properly network with other people, you'll find yourself lost.
Now, I'm pretty sure that obviously people will say, okay, Mr. Samuel is all about business. That man he's never going to get lost. But when you do say to yourself, I'm going to get loose from all of my work life, I'm not going to sit here and just do numbers because it's not just about numbers. Where do you find your balance? Where is that moment when Samuel says, I'm going to close the computer, I'm going to close the calculator, and I'm going to just sit and just be Samuel? What does that look like?
That is no, that is one of my I think I find it in a normal sense it might look boring, because I do not have some activities that might look fun to others. When I close my computer, most of the time I sit and relax, and I dedicate some time to church activities that I need to safeguard, because as I said, look, my steps were guided by God. I appreciate in every step. It's just one of those things that you find that in almost every step, all the things that I encounter is God's intervention. So I save my God in my normal mind, not in my, I would not say my spare time, because it's a dedicated time. Like for example, on a Saturday, I go and sing in the choir. On Sunday, on Sunday I go to church, and sometimes I actually even go on the altar and serve and preach to the congregation.
Beautiful.
Yes.
A leader. Yes.
Yeah. So that also prepares me to actually to ensure that some of the things, the teaching that I actually do, I can go back and reflect about my work.
And I think that's beautiful. That's like, because I think everyone finds a different way to create that balance for them. And I think using spirituality to find that anchor and that balance while still keeping up with your work life, it's very important. And accounting, we need to balance. We need to have this, the balance sheets need to balance everything, all the books need to be right. So I think it's very interesting that you can also use that to reflect back to your work life, because we know that there's structure. In the house of the Lord, there's structure. He loves order. There's a specific way for things to be. And I think when you look back at accounting, even like there's structure.
There's structure.
As much as we say it's an umbrella, a term that has so many different things happening underneath it, but all of those things have a place. And none of those things get moved out of place. And if they do, then we've got a problem.
Exactly.
Then we have an issue.
Yeah.
So,
I normally sometimes even give an example. And when they're saying, no, but, you are a servant of God, you're not supposed to be tough like this. I tell people and say, remember Jesus, what he did at the synagogue when he found people, the money changers. He took a whip. Yeah?
Yes.
It's Jesus.
Flip
The most
those
holy
tables
one.
and no.
He took a whip. So don't, when you see me taking a whip to correct it, it's the only thing I can tell you that whatever I do is to ensure that the order is kept.
Yes.
So we can all achieve what is assigned to us. But at the same time, I want to better you.
Yes.
Because I believe in living that when I leave, the people that I leave behind, they are better persons. They should be able to say, wow, he was here, I did not know. Now I know. I was idle, he pushed me to study. I didn't took leadership. I was in a leadership position, but I didn't take that leadership the way it's supposed to be taken. So those are some of the things that you find sometimes you go into the Bible, find so much. Actually, we had one professor who always made the reference that the richest king ever lived was, I think it's King Solomon from the Bible. So he always refers to the Bible. So, it's all the things that now you can be able to, some of them even take some of the leadership skill that they see in the Bible and I just incorporate it.
Beautiful.
And I remember our CEO had a session with us. He picked one particular verse about stewardship. And he said, as employees, we are stewards. And then he gave the scenario of the three servants that were given task and how they performed, how they were held accountable at the end, how they were rewarded.
Yes.
But that is coming from the Bible, the oldest,
from
one
scripture.
of the oldest book. Yeah.
And I think that's, again, I'm saying it again, using or having spirituality as this lens to understand the complexities of accounting. Because I think a lot of times, and I'll say this a lot, I'll say this a lot, but I always say, like, when people come, because I wanted to be an accountant. When I was much younger, I was like, maybe I'll crunch some numbers. But then the reality and sitting and thinking about sitting in a little desk, working long hours, sitting there with numbers, looking at other people's money and trying to figure out how to help them. I was like, that's not my life. But then seeing it with this lens now and seeing how you found a way to use scripture and use these life lessons from a story of, like, I didn't think I was going to be an accountant, I wanted to be a scientist, to all of these interventions that happen divinely, to the point where you're sitting now to be, I've taught, I've given the knowledge that I've received back. And that cycle of, it's like the water cycle. It just continues. It continues. And I think that's really what the word is about also. It's about the water of life. It's the living water.
Indeed.
And at the end of the day, accounting makes sure that that water flows. And if you have the structure and everything together, the public sector can thrive, because we need more interventions in the public sector.
And then when we indicated about the flow, we said, I normally have a say that if your finance matters are not in order, the organization collapses. When your financial matters are in order, everyone will succeed. That means people will carry on their projects. Even though sometimes the people carry up the project, they think they do not need us. So it's that continuous flow, the interdependence that we need.
Yes.
Without the project owners, you will not have anything to do. But without, as a project owners, the engineer can go in the field, but he will not have a budget.
Exactly. We need everyone to be on.
Exactly.
No, that's amazing. But obviously, there's so much more we can talk about.
Yes.
There's definitely so much more that we can dive into. But Unfortunately, time is against us. It's the
Yes.
only thing that's always against us.
Time.
But for any of our listeners that are out there that are sitting down and they're watching the podcast and listening to it now, and they're really saying, "All right, I found spirituality now. I found accounting now. I found a new understanding of what it means to be an accountant, but I still want to know why I should do it." What is that piece of advice that you would give to someone if they're still questioning themselves whether or not they should step into this profession, and specifically step into it for the public sector, not just always the private sector?
You, I'll go for the last part where you indicated for public sector, because I chose to go in the public sector. One of the reasons that motivated me to go for public sector, I encountered into the local authority sector. I found some of my students that were in there. They were struggling because when I'm someone who likes to kind of debate, which explains because I was a lecturer. You know, you want to reason.
Exactly.
Yeah? So you find them there when you ask them, but why are you doing this? They say, no, this is how we're taught. And I say, but what did I teach you?
Not this.
Not this. Yeah. I taught you to reason. There's always a reason why you need to do it, so that things make sense. So that even if you encounter a problem, because you can be able to reason, you can be able to find a solution. But if you are just told this is the only way, when you find a problem, then you get stuck.
Yes.
So I realized that when I looked at the public sector, there is especially for local authority, there was no single chartered accountant. Out of the 56 local authorities, yes, we can be able to say maybe the village council, not. But we are saying out of the 56 local authorities, there are only 2 chartered accountants which are employed by city. And I was the first. So I wanted to go there to make an impact. Yes, we need to learn. We need to create, because it's us. One politician, I think a local politician, said, he says a statement like, we only have Namibia. Yeah, so I only have Namibia.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, the
This
world
is my home. Yes.
This is my home. I need to be able to go in there and find a way how we can be able to improve. So, public sector, you are with the people. If you want to provide the service to the public, as an accountant, come to the public sector, because most of the things that we do is for the public, is to build the economy, to build the country.
Yes.
We need professionals because the sector is, how would I say, some of the challenges the sector faces is lack of professional accountants. Yes, they're skilled because they add certain value which other trainings, the trained people might not be able to have.
Yes.
So we need people to come into the sector. And in future, it's the leadership from this sector that also need to take you might even end up as a politician. Now, a politician, if I take my example, if I become a politician, coming from the sector, I understand fully how
it works, the
how
inner
it
workings.
works, how the inner works, and I know where to touch to improve situations. But if you are sitting outside there
in the private sector
and just
only,
watching and say, yeah, you see things are falling apart, come and fix those things that are falling apart so that we can have a better Namibia for all of us.
I love that. We need to really reinvest in the Namibian house and
In the
make sure that
Namibian house, yes.
we take care of what's happening in-house.
In the house.
Yes.
Let's not wait for someone else. Because as it says, it's just like a king who does not know he's a king. The servants will lead him.
Yes.
The servants will become the king because the king does not know. So as a Namibian person, you need to be able to understand the public sector is also for you.
Yes.
If you do not take it upon, someone else will come and take charge. You don't know. There's this thing that I normally say, that in America, I find that everyone goes to America and makes America great.
Yes.
I'm not sure if everyone who comes to Namibia makes Namibia great. I think it's the part that we need to question. Some of the things that are falling apart is because sometimes certain positions, certain leadership positions are assigned to people who have their own interest and interest allegiance to where they come from. Yeah.
And we need to,
So as much as we're living in a global economy, but we need that balancing act
yes,
where there is checks.
yes,
There will be someone who comes from outside, brings a certain exposure, but there's a local person who needs to make sure who can be able to
yes.
to reason at the same level as the other one and say, no, I see this
I see
particular.
what you're saying, but
Yes, but this is not going to be suitable for our.
the Namibian context
Yes,
for our people.
it's not
yes.
going to be beneficial
yes.
for us.
Yes.
I think
We need
for
more.
now, that particular, I'll take the other one, but this one, let's pack it.
I like that.
Yes.
And it just goes back to the whole thing of we need to start taking ownership as Namibians.
Yes.
We need to take back our collective ownership. We can't just have access to the economy anymore.
Yes.
We need to have collective
Collective
ownership.
ownership.
And it only happens when we reinvest.
We do invest.
We focus back, and like we always say, yes, the private sector is great to be there, and we do need it to be there as well.
Yes.
But the public sector is where the heart is at.
Indeed.
And that's where we need to go back, and we need to focus on that. And what better profession than chartered accountants to make sure that everything is flowing
It's
the way
flowing.
it should.
Exactly.
No, I think there's really so much more we could talk about, Samuel. But obviously, like I said, time is running against us. So before I do let you go, I just want to find out from you, just in closing, if you could say something to young Samuel when you were back when you were still a child, still had dreams of other things, what advice would you give to yourself, that young 5-6-year-old Samuel sitting there figuring out, now what's next? I'm not the head yet. I have older brothers, so I can't be the head. But what is that advice you'd give yourself?
As a young person or as a child, just know that leadership can anytime fall on you. So you should be prepared to take leadership. And also take fields that are challenging. Because in fields that are challenging are always there to provide solutions. So you face challenges in life, but because you have put yourself in most challenging positions, you easily adapt. So that's how growth comes in. If we just take the easy way out in everything, you're not going to grow. That is the young Samuel I need to be able to tell. The young Samuel there, he ran away from leadership position at one stage because no, it's not
for
me.
me.
Even in putting head down, when they say we're looking for someone to do this, and then the young Samuel puts raise up your hand and be able to take up the challenge.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, sometimes you have the people around you that provide the support. I have brothers in the family. I have my older brother, but now my older brother listens to me as much as I listen to him. Sometimes he even gives me the leadership position that he was supposed to take, to assign me to be able to take. So as I said, even here we're saying, one day the president can appoint a young person. We have seen that. Young people going into parliament. Young people become the minister. You remember the minister of information.
Ms. Emma, yes.
Exactly.
Honorable Emma, yes.
We need
yes.
we need those. They bring us different energy to wherever
it's
they
that merge.
The
past and the present,
exactly.
Getting ready for the future.
And exactly. Now you look at her and then you say, you don't be surprised if she becomes the president in 10, 20 years.
Yes.
Because she could have run away.
Yes.
And said, no, I can't. I know I will not be able to deal with my grandparents. Yes, because some of the people she's serving with
as our seniors, it's our elders.
Yes, indeed.
No, that's beautiful. And I think what's so beautiful is like making sure that the youth also understand that they have as big a role to play as all of us do.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, it's our country.
Our country.
And we need to take care of our country by ourselves. So what a great time to be alive.
Indeed.
But Samuel, before I let you go officially, and of course allow you to go back to crunching some numbers, maybe going to go sing in the choir, I don't know, maybe today is a lucky day for you. How can any of our listeners or anyone out there that is, of course, trying to understand more about accounting or chartered accounting, or just maybe are looking for like some life lessons from that lecturer of theirs, how do we get in contact with your office? How do we find out how we can collaborate or work with you guys?
Yeah, I'm available on the social media, but it's not that much active. Yes, you will be able to reach me either on Facebook or even on LinkedIn. You'll be able to reach me. I think there's one part that I normally want to share knowledge with with the public, so that I can be able to educate and prepare the next generation as they come. But I think the part that I find more difficult is creating the content. I have in terms of the content, I know what
you
I need
have
to
it.
be able.
The footage is
but
there.
now, but I just
The
probably
production.
need the production part. I think that opens a job for another person and say someone can come in and say, look, can that production you're talking about? Maybe we can work on something. We could be able to share knowledge that, for example, I'm coming from a lecturing
background.
I'm now in the industry. There are key things that you find that are more practical. You know, I like creating questions. It's one thing that I want to create, those questions which are more practical.
Yes.
It's not a question about ABC company. It's real. Yeah. So I would love to get production to take place in future. If I find the person who can be able to actually assist me, so that at least it will be easier for people actually to get in contact and learn some of the things, but at the same time that I can learn. Because I make mistakes as a human being. I do not know everything.
We remain a work in progress.
And I would want to learn more. And that would be an opportunity also for me to learn. Yes.
There we have it. Samuel, thank you so much. I think it's so amazing that in this day and era, like you say, we can still share knowledge, we can still learn from each other. And I think I now also have a lot of reflection to go do, because this was a lot of interesting, like, gold nuggets of information. Because I think even just understanding that the whole spirituality connection can come into your workspace. I think sometimes we miss that. We miss finding those balances. We miss finding that equilibrium. So I just want to say thank you so much for what you've done so far. And thank you for joining us today and just being so open and ready to share, and still being open and ready to teach and consume and be taught as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Of course, that is our guest for today, Samuel Mutonga. And if you are wondering, you have been watching Beyond the Spreadsheet. Now, you can, of course, catch up on all of our episodes on YouTube and all podcast streaming platforms. So check it out now, or head on over to that is ICAN's website for more information on the work they do and so much more. But for now, it's goodbye and ICAN.